The prospect of North Korea launching a nuclear weapon worries the international community greatly. Such an occurrence might trigger a worldwide conflict and have disastrous effects on the Korean peninsula and the surrounding area. First and foremost, if North Korea launched a nuclear weapon, there would be a great deal of death and destruction. People living in the local area of the explosion as well as those who reside in adjacent cities and towns will be affected immediately. A nuclear bomb's impacts, such as the extreme heat, radiation, and pressure waves, would result in significant amounts of death and injuries. The region would be rendered uninhabitable for years to come after the destruction of buildings and infrastructure. A nuclear attack by North Korea would not only cause physical devastation but also serious economic and political repercussions. The disruption of trade and commerce in the Korean peninsula, a significant economic center in East Asia, would have an impact on the world economy. As North Korea's main trading partners, nations including China, Japan, and South Korea would be significantly impacted. Politically, if North Korea detonated a nuclear weapon, there would undoubtedly be widespread condemnation and potential military response by other nations. Nations like the United Nations would probably impose harsh sanctions on North Korea, while nations like the United States and South Korea would think about retaliating militarily. This could result in a larger confrontation involving several nations that could eventually turn into a world war. Furthermore, the security and stability of the region would be seriously impacted by a nuclear bomb launch by North Korea. The development of nuclear weapons by neighboring nations such as South Korea and Japan as a result to North Korea's nuclear capability would probably spark an arms race in the area. The likelihood of war in the area would rise as a result of rising tensions. In conclusion, if North Korea were to detonate a nuclear weapon, it would have grave repercussions for the Korean peninsula, the neighborhood, and even the entire world. The wisest course of action for the world community is to use diplomatic and economic methods to stop such a situation from happening. It is crucial to keep up the pressure on North Korea to denuclearize and to settle the ongoing tensions on the Korean peninsula peacefully. The relocation and suffering of the North Korean populace are potential side effects of a nuclear bomb detonation by North Korea. The nation is already among the poorest and most isolated in the entire globe, so a nuclear assault would only make things worse for the populace. Many people would become homeless and lack access to basic essentials like food and clean water as a result of the devastation of cities and infrastructure. The population's health and welfare would be seriously threatened by the long-term impacts of radiation and fallout. A nuclear assault by North Korea would also force the international community to consider its moral and humanitarian ramifications. The world would then have to decide how to address the misery of the people of North Korea and whether to support a government that has committed such a horrific deed. There would undoubtedly be discussion over the obligation of the international community to act and defend the rights of the North Korean people, as well as the possible outcomes of such action. The possibility of a nuclear winter is another repercussion of North Korea detonating a nuclear weapon. A nuclear winter is a speculative scenario in which a nuclear war significantly alters the climate and environment, causing precipitation to fall less frequently and the Earth's surface to chill. The result could be widespread hunger and starvation due to the terrible consequences this could have on agricultural and food production. A nuclear winter would undoubtedly have serious and far-reaching impacts on the entire world, albeit its long-term implications on the planet's environment and climate are not yet fully understood. For many years, the international community has been alarmed and tense about North Korea's nuclear development. Fears of a nuclear assault have been stoked by the nation's secrecy, unpredictability, belligerent rhetoric, and pursuit of nuclear weapons. It is essential that the international community keeps trying to bring the ongoing tensions on the Korean peninsula to a peaceful conclusion. To find a peaceful and long-term resolution to the situation, diplomatic initiatives like the six-party talks must be restarted and stepped up. To get North Korea to give up its nuclear program and go back to the negotiating table, continued economic sanctions and other types of pressure are also necessary. In conclusion, if North Korea were to detonate a nuclear weapon, it would have grave repercussions for the Korean peninsula, the neighborhood, and even the entire world. The explosion would wreak terrible casualties and destruction, and its effects on the economy and politics would be felt all across the world. The devastating impacts of such a strike would be exacerbated by the uprooting and suffering of the people of North Korea, the moral and humanitarian repercussions, and the potential for a nuclear winter. The world community must keep attempting to bring about a peaceful conclusion of the problem and avert such a disastrous tragedy. Another thing to think about is how launching a nuclear bomb by North Korea may affect the global non-proliferation framework. An international agreement known as the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT, aims to stop the spread of nuclear weapons and weapons technology, encourage cooperation in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and advance the cause of nuclear disarmament and general and complete disarmament. Launching a nuclear weapon would be a serious violation of the NPT and could cause other nations, especially those in the region, to doubt the treaty's effectiveness and possibly pursue nuclear weapons of their own. In addition, the launch of a nuclear weapon by North Korea would probably result in a dramatic shift in the balance of power in the area, which might have disastrous repercussions for regional stability. The possession of nuclear weapons by North Korea would make it a formidable military force, necessitating the necessity for other nations in the area to modify their defensive tactics. This might raise the need for military investment, tensions between nations, and the likelihood of conflict. Finally, if North Korea launched a nuclear weapon, it would have a profound psychological effect on the entire world. It would serve as a striking reminder of nuclear weapons' deadly potential and the disastrous effects of their usage. The incident can lower morale all throughout the world and cause widespread fear and concern. Furthermore, the public's confidence in and support for the government would probably drop as a result of North Korea launching a nuclear weapon, especially in nations that would be immediately affected by the strike. In conclusion, the launch of a nuclear weapon by North Korea would have grave and far-reaching effects on the Korean peninsula, the surrounding area, and maybe the entire world. Aspects to take into account include the casualties and damage brought on by the explosion, the economic and political fallout, the uprooting and suffering of the North Korean populace, the moral and humanitarian ramifications, the possibility of a nuclear winter, the effect on the non-proliferation regime and the balance of power in the area, and the psychological impact on the world's population. To avoid such a terrible outcome, it is crucial that the international community maintain its pressure on North Korea to denuclearize and find diplomatic solutions to the ongoing tensions on the Korean peninsula.